السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. As usual, start with intention from Imam al-Haddad. يا فتاح يا عليم افتح لنا فتحا قريبا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير وابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. O Opener, O All-Knowing One, grant us an opening soon. In the name of Allah, the All-Merciful, the Compassionate. Praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and blessings and peace upon our Master Muhammad, his family, and his companions. I intend to study and teach, to remember and remind, to profit and bring profit, to benefit and bring benefit, to encourage holding fast to the Book of Allah and the way of His Messenger, to call to guidance, to direct towards good, and to aim for the countenance of Allah and His pleasure, His nearness and His reward, exalted be He. Before we start, a few kind of, housekeeping items, I suppose, is the general term. In looking at the syllabus, I was thinking about what to do in the next few weeks, because we have a bit more material to cover now today, and then it's on the schedule is 4 weeks of review of our material. One of the reasons I put those 4 weeks of review and practice is because I didn't actually think I would get through the alphabet as quickly as I wanted to, and yet, subhanAllah, it happened. So that was partly to give myself some leeway, and so we weren't. I didn't have to extend class after those weeks, but it did happen, alhamdulillah. And another reason was just to allow time there to apply all this knowledge, apply everything that we go over, because often we go over this material and then kind of left to ourselves to put it all together. And I want to make sure, as much as possible, that I can help all of you by putting everything together. And so I was thinking about what to do in the next few weeks, and I actually kind of came to the conclusion that, well, it might be best not to go the full 4 or 5 weeks. And so since this is something that I committed to you that we would be doing this, I want to get your input on this as well. I have an idea of that we finish up just a few things today. Then for the next session we go over Surah Al-Fatiha, and everything that's said. Try to get through everything that's said in the salah, in all the different positions. make sure we're pronouncing things correctly, and looking at the Arabic there. So that would be next week. Then the week after that, so in 2 weeks' time, kind of working collectively and individually on whatever you want to work on personally. If there are surahs or things that you would like to work on, then we can work through that. And then any questions about any of the material and stuff, and some review. And then in 3 weeks' time, having the assessment there. So basically moving the assessment up 2 weeks, taking 2 weeks out of the schedule, so we finish 2 weeks earlier. How does everyone feel about that? Does anybody want the extra weeks to keep going? What are you thinking? I'm seeing lots of nods. I don't really know what the nods are. Yeah. First.
Not so well on the assessment. Could we possibly have a second assessment after?
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Yeah. That's always been an option. Yeah. I mean, you take the assessment as many times as you want. You just have to coordinate with me as to when and how. Yasmin? Okay, wait, sorry, would we?
Like, would we have, like, if we have extra time, would we be able to go into the assessment with you, or the class with you?
Well, typically, what I did last term was, during that period that was for the assessment, I went through the assessment, and by the end of the course, the course started with about 20 people. By the end of the course, there were 4 people there, and 3 of those people are the TAs who you've seen around. Tanaya excuses herself. She apologizes. She couldn't be with us today. She had something come up, and so. But when I did that assessment, it was just 4 people, and so we did the assessment, and then I went over the assessment individually with each person if they didn't get something quite correct, and we talked about it right then in that setting. And so would that be adequate for you as well? Okay. Right, yeah. There would definitely be feedback on the, I'm not just going to take the assessment and be like, oh, no. Yeah. Any other comments or questions or anything? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I want to set a time to do the assessment, just to have that in mind. But SubhanAllah. I've always said from the beginning that if you want to take the assessment at another time, you just have to kind of schedule it privately with me, and so if that's what you want, then fine. Would there be any interest in leaving 2 weeks in between the last day of review and the assessment to give people time to study or something? Or should we just do the assessment the next week?
I would be okay with the assessment for next week, especially since we get, just in case, you want to take it again, you do have the option.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that works. Okay. So we'll go with that, inshallah. I'll email all this out too, and the details. Make sure everyone else who's not here right now, who's still following the course, that they have it too. So we'll plan on finishing up some of these things. Then next week the homework will pretty much be just to take a close look at Surah Al-Fatiha. Then we'll go through that in class next time, inshallah, and about things that are typically said during Salah. And then the week after that, any questions that you have, maybe I'll bring up a few other points that kind of maybe brushed over throughout the course, make sure we understand them. And then anything that you want to go through personally, individually, and then assessment after that. So having the assessment on the 13th of May instead of the 27th as is on the syllabus. Okay. So the amount of material that we have to cover today, like I said before, it's just a few minor points. If I wanted to, I could pretty much cover it all in 5 minutes, pretty much. And so I want to just, well, for one thing, allow this, which is all common dhikr, up on the board, allow this to kind of take us down a direction and talk about things using these bits of dhikr. But also I wanted to start with having a conversation about what comes next and about knowledge in general. You know, often we go through experiences in life and we come out on the other end of these experiences thinking, well, you know, I wish I had known this when I started out. I wish someone had told me this or helped me with this thing. Right? The oft-repeated kind of example of I wish I knew this as a freshman or whoever that says, like, yeah, or like, there are always things that when we come out with experience, we think, oh, I could have told myself. I myself might have been able to, if only I had the chance to tell myself at the beginning, you know, all these things, I would have had a more positive experience. So I thought it might be beneficial as someone who Allah has blessed with knowledge and on this path through Arabic and for several years, to kind of give a few pointers about seeking knowledge and about these kind of things. Inshallah, there'll be some benefit. Just to begin with, I don't make any presumption about my own standing versus your standing. Many of you may be accomplished, having studied in other different areas, but you're just lacking in Arabic maybe, and that's why you came here. And much of this is also to kind of solidify myself, to, in a sense, almost like talking to myself, reminding myself of things too, because we all can use reminders in this regard. So a few pointers to those of you who are thinking about pursuing knowledge and going on and everything. First of all, what are some of the points of pursuing knowledge? Knowledge in general. Why would we want to? Why would we want to do that? Thoughts on that? You look like you had something to say. So. For career or for a particular subject? Okay, good. Any other thoughts? Why pursue knowledge? Okay, let's build off that point then. Seeking knowledge for a career or for some specific objective like that, a specific material objective. Every knowledge that we seek, it has a reason. Like there's a reason that we're pursuing it. There should be a specific reason, otherwise we wouldn't. I mean, seeking knowledge isn't easy. So there's something that drives us. So what is the best thing that could possibly drive us? Allah. All right, good. I thought I might have to, pull it out a bit here and there, but you said it well. Allah, the reason that drives us. What is the best knowledge worth knowing? No, you're doing so well. You were doing so well, Yasmin. You just say that same answer again. What is the best knowledge worth pursuing? Knowledge of? Allah. There we go. Knowledge of Quran, yes. Knowledge of Islam, yes. Insofar that they are knowledge of Allah. Because knowledge of Islam and knowledge of Quran can lead to knowledge of Allah. But too often, especially these days, we get so consumed by everything else that it is so, when we're trying to aim ourselves towards the thing that we want, it's so easy to stop at certain things along the way, certain things that should be tools. The tools then become the object of our desire. That there are many people out here in this world, many Muslims. I'm talking from personal experience too. May Allah continue to improve our state. Many Muslims out there who are worshipping not Allah, they're worshipping Islam. It is possible to worship Islam. It is possible to worship the Quran. It is possible for anything that Allah has put in this world in order to help us get to Him. It is possible for that thing to be a veil to Him ultimately, if that is our goal. If our goal is to read the Quran, we can read the Quran, but if in that whole equation, if Allah doesn't come into it, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. And so this is number one common pitfall, not number one in its gravity of what it can do to us, because it can do something for us on our path to knowledge, and it can do something for how we understand others who have knowledge as well. In the sense of we have to understand teachers as tools to bring us closer to Allah, to our objective. Too often they can become veils for us too. And too often the knowledge itself can become a veil to the knowledge of Allah as well. But there's a reason that Islam has a set structure. There's a reason that the Arabic has a grammar and has a structure. But when the companions were learning their knowledge from Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, what was fiqh to them? What was fiqh to them? Anyone know what that word meant to them? Fiqh. Yeah. Means law. In the common usage, it means law. What does fiqh mean? Fiqh. This right here. Fa. Qaf. Ha. Fiqh. Quran talks about those who have fiqh. الَّذِينَ يَفْقَهُونَ. What does that mean? Does that mean they have knowledge of law? Does that mean they've studied the rules of tahara, and they've studied the rules of salah, and they've studied the rules of this, and they can tell you what's written in that book and that book? Is that الَّذِينَ يَفْقَهُونَ? Close. One of the basic understandings of fiqh is, one of the basic meanings of fiqh is understanding. Having clear understanding. Fiqh is understanding. So fiqh in the time of the Sahaba, radiyallahu anhum ajma'een, may Allah be pleased with them, didn't mean a system of rules. Fiqh meant understanding. And this is what Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, this is what the Messenger of Allah taught them. He taught the Sahaba understanding. He didn't go through a list of rules saying, okay, when this happens you do this, when this happens you do that. It came. We developed those rules from his speech. His speech was replete with rules, but also replete with all kinds of other guidance too that we often forget. What about Sharia? What was Sharia in the time of the Sahaba? Anyone know? Yeah, go ahead.
At that time, there wasn't really Sharia, really system of law. They kind of just followed what the Muslims
Right, they followed what the messenger said. Okay, good. The word Sharia, has anyone heard what Sharia is? Brother Musa.
Sharia is the way, follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ, like in the best of ways that you understood it from his doing and saying.
Right, that's good. It's a way. Literally, and some of the scholars talk about that Sharia specifically means a way, a path to water, a path to a watering hole, right? But subhanAllah, you look at that and you think, how many times in our lives has our goal been Sharia? I want to establish Sharia in my life. I want to be praying in the best way. I want to be wearing the best kind of clothes in the best way. I want to do this. Yes, that's all good. That is all good. But as long as that's hollow and that's the only thing that's there, it's pointless. It's pointless. And we look at that term and what Sharia means to us today, and specifically what other people think Sharia means. Often in this country we get so indignant when states in the US are making laws against Sharia law, and we say, they don't understand what Sharia law is. Well, one of the points that scholars of purification and of the heart science talked about, and they talked about ways that you can figure out, ways that you can learn about yourself, ways that you can learn about the defects of yourself and how to improve. One of the ways is by listening to what your enemies say about you. That's how you can learn about yourself. Too often we hear what our enemies are saying and we say, oh, they're our enemies, they don't know anything. When really they often have a very clear perspective. Those people who don't understand us and have an agenda against us. So those in this country who have an agenda against Muslims as they see them are against Sharia law. And we say, well, you don't understand what Sharia is. Do we really understand what Sharia is? Is Sharia a path to us? Is it a path to our spiritual water, or is it an objective that we make? I don't want to push so. I don't want to shatter anything, or don't get me wrong. Like I've said before, Sharia is good. Like learning how to pray well is good. Learning how to dress well and eat well and do proper tahara, have proper purification, will do everything. That's all good. But often we just lose sight of the essential. And so common pitfall in knowledge is losing sight of the essential and having aspirations be mastery of some specific thing for that specific thing. And what that engenders, first of all, it should be enough that it brings about distracting us from the real point of everything, which is Allah. Everything. Okay, that's enough. But also, what it can also engender is it can also engender failure. What happens when we don't do well on that path to get a specific type of knowledge? All of you are here because you don't know something about Arabic. You're here to learn something about Arabic. All of you have your particular issues that you're going to have difficulties with, You'll learn some things quickly as you go on in Arabic or whatever you study. There are some things that will be hindrances for you and will take a long time for you to get past. Some of you have particular letters that you're really having trouble with, and often doesn't seem like all that you practice, it doesn't seem like you're getting better with those letters, or it doesn't seem like you're improving in putting everything together, putting all that knowledge together. For some of you, that will never happen. There are people, Allah has created people who cannot pronounce the sin. Even one of the letters that we have in English, there are people who just cannot pronounce a sin. And so if their objective is to be able to pronounce Arabic well and learn Arabic, they're going to be failures. They're going to be failures in that. But if their objective is Allah, then when they succeed, it brings them closer to Allah, because it allows them to understand things and access sources that bring them closer to Allah. When they fail, what happens then? You still get closer to Allah. Perhaps even more when you fail in a certain thing, perhaps you get even closer to Allah than when you succeed. Because when that happens, we realize how much we're in need of Allah, and how much we don't know anything, and how much He provides us with every single thing that we need if only we were to realize it. And we realize what the point is, that the point isn't me learning how to pronounce the scene correctly. The point is me understanding how my struggle to learn the scene is going to bring me closer to Allah, and how if that struggle doesn't work out exactly as I wanted it to, it's going to bring me closer to Allah regardless. Because every time we see a defect in ourselves, that's a window, that's a little crack in the walls that we put up around ourselves. That's a crack through which light can come. When we see that we can't rely on ourselves anymore, we can only rely on Allah. And the only thing to do is to return to Allah. Therefore, in a path of knowledge, every success, when we have the right orientation, that's why we start every day with the intentions. Because as long as that intention is there, as long as the intention is there, and as long as the beginning is for Allah, and the end is for Allah, and really what we mean by that is that we realize that the beginning is for Allah and that the end is for Allah, because the beginning and the end is for Allah regardless of what we're doing. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Verily we are from Allah, we belong to Allah, lillahi, we belong to Allah, and we are returning to Him every moment of our lives. So if we're not putting Allah in the beginning and the end, we're just in denial of what's actually going on anyway. But in a path to knowledge, as long as those things, as long as we allow those to be set in their proper place, then the whole thing is for Allah, and the whole thing is in its proper place. So that's one common pitfall. That's the main thing, as I said. Other common pitfalls too is natural things that you'll see with. I mean, you could talk about anywhere. Like if you go to college, they're not going to talk about that thing we just talked about. The point being Allah. Subhanallah. We have so many people of knowledge these days, but Subhanallah, we just. Often, as I said, this pursuit of knowledge just brings us even farther from Allah than when we started. So as Imam Abdul Latif mentioned in the class he had just a few hours ago today, so often when we increase in knowledge, what we're really doing is increasing in a vocabulary to speak about the faults that we already had in our mind. Often we see this pattern that when there are people in the community, or even ourselves, I can tell you from personal experience, I've seen it myself. I go and I learn all the rules of wudu. What that allows me to do is tell myself how everyone else around me is doing wudu wrong. I can say it specifically. Before I study, I'm in a state of thinking, I don't think everyone else is doing wudu right. I'm going to learn how to do my wudu right. And then I do learn how to do my wudu right. And therefore I can say specifically why everyone else is doing their wudu wrong. That's often a paradigm that you see in the pursuit of knowledge. Anyway, that's a side note. Other considerations as well. Just to keep in mind that diligence is very important, and that we can become too dependent on teachers too, and so that's why it's exciting for me to see in 2 weeks, inshallah, what you will bring to the class and to me, and say, this is what I want to know about, this is what I want to learn. Often when we're not given direct things to do, we don't know what to do with ourselves. But that's really where a lot of growth happens, when we're creating work for ourselves too, not just the work that others place upon us. It reminds me of the story of Surah Al-Baqarah. Why is Surah Al-Baqarah called Surah Al-Baqarah? Does anyone remember the story of Al-Baqarah? First of all, what does Al-Baqarah mean? The cow, right? Al-Baqarah, the cow. So what's the story of Al-Baqarah? Anyone? Even if you just remember a few details. Okay, I started worshipping the calf. It's about the same people, right? Both those stories, both the story of Al-Baqarah and of the calf, Al-Ajl, they both have to do with Bani Israel, with the Israelites, the tribe of Israel. But they're slightly different stories. Al-Baqarah, the story of Al-Baqarah is not when they worship the cow. Anyone know? Exactly. What happens when they're called to sacrifice?
They kept asking questions like the color, the size, the type.
Exactly. This happened. Rabbuna, our Lord Allah, tells us in the Quran about what happened to Bani Israel when Musa said, "You have to sacrifice a cow." Right? They said, "Well, what? Which one? Right? What color is it? Which one? Okay, now that we know the color, well, describe it some more. Okay, now you've described it some more. Go back to your Lord and say exactly, specifically which one it is," until they have this back and forth until they finally, it's pinpointed the exact cow that they need to slaughter, and they're like, okay, finally, now we know. Now that they don't have to do anything and use their own kind of reasoning and just go with what they were told to begin with, that's when they're finally comfortable slaughtering the cow. And it says in the Quran that they slaughtered the cow, but they almost didn't do it. They didn't do it with their full hearts. That's often a metaphor that we get stuck into in the pursuit of knowledge. Allah tells us in the Quran, فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Allah tells us, know that there is no, la ilaha illallah. Know that there is no God but Allah. And oftentimes we're just sitting back and saying, well, I don't know how to get there. Okay, I suppose maybe learning some Arabic would bring me closer to Allah's words, so I'll start there. I know I should be learning Arabic. I don't really know how though, so I'll just wait for my teacher to tell me exactly how to get in this path. We need a teacher. but we also need a lot of initiative and diligence on our part. So often teachers, specific in any discipline, but specifically Arabic, get asked, what is the best book for me to study? What is the best book for me to study Arabic? One of the best answers I heard to this question was related to me from Imam Zayd. Do you know what he said? Any guesses what the best book for you to study Arabic by is? Sorry? Quran? Could you open up a Quran and just learn Arabic from the Quran? Or would you kind of need some help in there? Maybe like some kind of textbook or something? A dictionary, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah. Good answer. Good try. But the Quran, yes. I mean, the Quran should be vital to it. That should be a central point of your pursuit of Arabic. But you're not going to be able to really learn Arabic through the Quran. You're going to need something to help you, some reference guide or something. Any other ideas? I heard that Imam Zayd said the best book for you to study Arabic by is the one that you finish. The one that you read from cover to cover. There are many ways to different knowledges. There are many ways to knowledge of Allah. Many, many different ways. And one of the common ways in which we get stuck is by taking a certain path and then getting distracted by the other paths that are around us. A path is not Allah. It is bringing you to Allah, but it is not Allah. Therefore, that path is going to be imperfect. And there are going to be strengths and weaknesses of other paths. And so, if I'm heading to, North Berkeley, from here, and I decide that I'm going to take Martin Luther King Boulevard to North Berkeley. Just go all the way up. It does go all the way up, pretty much to North Berkeley, right? Tells you how much I drive around here. Anyway, so I'm going to take MLK to North Berkeley. At a side street, when I come to an intersection, I might see that there are other cars down a few blocks away. Maybe I can see all the way to a few blocks down to Telegraph or down to Shattuck or something, parallel roads, right? And I can see there are other cars there going in the same direction. They're heading to North Berkeley too. It's in this metaphor of the spiritual path or a path to knowledge, it's very easy for me to go see those other cars on that other path, say, hey, they're heading to North Berkeley too, and their street isn't filled with so much traffic, it looks like, and they got some good stores along the way that might be nice driving near. Oh, I'm going to go over there, right? So now we're on Telegraph. Now we look over and there's Shattuck. I'm like, oh, that's actually a really nice drive. There's some grass there along the side of the street, and it's not so filled with crazy people like Telegraph is. I'm gonna go over to Shattuck, and then we get to Shattuck, and on and on and on. Often when we take paths to Allah or on any pursuit of knowledge, we see the defects of our own path, and that means that takes us away from taking that path. Yes, there might be hierarchies in which one book or one teacher or one system is better than another, but in general, the best book to learn anything is the one that you finish or read from cover to cover. Because you're not only going to learn that discipline through that book as well. You're going to learn some humility there. And you're going to realize that that path is imperfect, and therefore you don't rely on the book or on the teacher, you rely on Allah, and as long as you're relying on Allah, He'll take you to Him. And so that's also a common pitfall. Thinking, oh, this isn't quite working out excellently, I'm going to try this. Oh, this isn't quite working out excellently, I'm going to try this. Oh, I'm going to try this one. Going back and forth, street to street, street to street, street to street, and we're not going in the direction we need to be going in. That's another common pitfall. And then finally, sometimes we also lose our humility and we think we can do everything ourselves too. Okay, wow, now that I know the alphabet, I'm set. I can just pick up a grammar book and I've got it, I got the alphabet down. Yeah, I mean, that kind of knowledge couldn't be transmitted in a book because it's about pronouncing and reading certain things. I needed someone to help me. But now that I've gotten that down, now I can do this on my own. That's another pitfall too. If we look at our history, the history of our ummah, the history of our revelation, we as Muslims are a community of knowledge, but we are not a community of books. And it is very easy for us to forget that a lot of us get into the mode of thinking, okay, if I read Quran, then I read Sahih Bukhari, then I read Sahih Muslim, then I read this, then I read that, and that's my path to Allah. But what was the best generation of our ummah, indeed of this world? What was the best generation? What are they known as? What's their name? The Sahaba, right, the Sahaba. What does Sahaba mean? Companions, right. The Sahaba were who they were because of their companionship, not because they studied a specific thing or got a specific knowledge. If Allah wanted, if the book was the point, if the Quran in between two covers is the point, Allah could have just sent it down. It could have just dropped out of the sky, and people started would start reading it, and then they'd start fixing their lives, and that would be that. But the shahada is not ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna al-Qur'ana kitabullah. The shahada is not I testify that there is no God but Allah and that the Quran is the book of Allah. What's the shahada? Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh wa anna Muhammadan rasulullah. Testify that Muhammad is the prophet of Allah. That's the key. That's what we need. We need Allah, then we need the prophet of Allah. We need Allah, and we need the teacher to bring us there. Someone who already realizes something and therefore can help us realize something for ourselves too. In any area of life, this works. This is one of the hidden wisdoms in which we think we've advanced so much because now we have so much knowledge, alhamdulillah, and we have the system of harakat. And do you remember me telling you at the beginning of the course that Arabic, as it was originally written, was without vowels and even without dots? This came later, after the Quran was spreading. People started making mistakes. The scholars realized, they said, okay, some of them at least, said people are starting to make mistakes. We need to start coming up with a system that will preserve this knowledge. Because the Sahaba and those knowledgeable people among them or who learnt from them, who know the Quran, they're starting to die out, and we're worried that this knowledge is going to be lost. The dots and the vowels and the whole writing system even is not the point. The point is what happens in here, and everything else is just there to preserve that and to prop it up a bit. We forget that too. The point is Allah, and everything else, Sharia, prayer, wudu, Quran, that's all to maintain that and to keep us going on that. And so And so if someone wanted to learn the Quran in the early generations, the whole system was there whereby if someone had basically taught themselves the Quran, any other Muslim would be able to tell that instantly. Because if someone were to take the book of the Quran and learn it from that, they'd have all kinds of mistakes in terms of, because they wouldn't have the dots, they wouldn't have the vowels. And so they wouldn't even know how to pronounce the words, let alone get the meanings of it. And the whole system was that you needed a teacher to bring you through the text. And now that we've built up more systems and all these different ways of codifying our religion, all these different ways of preserving things, we've lost track of what exactly it is that we're supposed to preserve. And therefore, in everything, it's essential that we have a teacher who can help us down the path and help us get out of ourselves, basically. You know, if I'm really fat and I have an eating problem, I'm not going to be able to, the most effective way, most sure way of me helping myself is to going to a trainer or someone with experience and saying, what do I do with my diet? What do I do with my exercise? Help me along with this. And the best trainer is, yes, the best trainer is the one who will ultimately help you then, or ultimately help me be able to be independent with myself. Yeah, that's true. But in the beginning and all along that path until I reach my goal, I'm going to need that trainer to help me do these things. Otherwise, I'm the one who got myself in this mess. So I'm not going to be able to bring myself out of that. We often forget that. We think, I know exactly what to do with my deen. I don't need a sheikh or a teacher or anything like this. I know how to purify my heart. I know how to do this. But we forget that we're the ones who got ourselves in this mess to begin with. So we're not the ones who can bring us out. We're not. As Imam Abdul Latif mentioned this just a few hours ago, we're all dirty rags, and too much of the time we think that we can clean ourselves by just taking ourselves and rubbing ourselves against ourselves. Right? A dirty rag cannot clean itself. If you want to clean a dirty rag, you don't clean the dirty rag by taking it and rubbing it against itself. You use another rag to take that dirt off, or use some water and some soap, something else that will purify it to take that off. And you won't even realize how that rag is dirty or exactly how it's supposed to be fully unless you have another rag to compare it to as well. Anyway, so inshallah there's been some benefit in that. May Allah guide us all to Him and to what's important, and allow us to return to Him in every single second of our lives, because that is truly a high station and a high blessing from Allah. Are there any questions about anything? Or any comments too? I want to hear some comments. I want to learn from you guys too. SubhanAllah. Like I said, I have a lot of work to do. It's easy when you're up in front of people to think that you have all the answers and know a lot more. But this has its own trials. As much as I can, inshallah, benefit others, SubhanAllah, you have to keep a check on yourself. Any other comments? Please.
Alhamdulillah, in learning this, and there's definitely challenges, but just listening to what you said, it's a really good reminder that this is just the perfect grammar and that's not the ultimate goal, that there's really an ultimate goal. And I think keeping that in mind all the time is more motivating and very important for all of us.
Right. Keeping the ultimate goal in mind. That's good. That's good. Anything else? Brother Musa, you always have good things to say.
About what? About knowledge or about?
About everything.
Oh, I just specifically about what you were talking about is about basically being with the right company at all times.
That's a good one.
Basically, is the key to that knowledge and that cleaning up, and that's what I reflected on a minute ago when you were talking about it. Is that what you hear, see, and read is supposed to be and eat as well, supposed to be real pure, so otherwise don't touch it, basically, don't go no near it.
Mm-hmm.
So if people talking about, nothing to benefit you, you just don't want to be around that company. Or food that doesn't really benefit you to its fullest, and as small as it can be, don't eat it or drink it.
Mm-hmm.
Or things that are going to benefit you when you look at it, don't look at it. So the same thing with hearing. The biggest problems I see is that people, they want to practice Islam and they watch their old programs and listen to their old music and that kind of stuff. And I see that as a big contradiction because you're actually poisoning yourself.
I mean, old programs and stuff, as in like the stuff that they used to watch.
TV, yeah, they would be watching the same programs they watched before. They'll be listening to the same old music that they listened to, not, well, there's a good music that they listen to, but the music that really is not, they bring them down, not really. And that kind of stuff. Like people come to Islam, for example, from different backgrounds, and they still watching the same old stuff, and going with the same old company, and they try to practice Islam, and it doesn't really help them to advance.
That's a good point. Purity of many things and good company. As the hadith goes, I believe, المرء على دين خليله فلينظر أحدكم من يخالل. Right? That a person is upon the religion of their companion, of their friend. So let every one of you pay attention to and think about who you are making your intimate friend. Right. Any other comments or questions or anything?
Also just that speaking for someone, also it helps that, like what you're saying about even if you fail, it's a loss of all things.
Alhamdulillah. Alright, so let's finish this material up. Bismillah. So, this first one, this is all common dhikr that we find. So what's the first one? Subhanallah. Oh, it feels so good to say that. Subhanallah. Okay, right. Subhana. Everyone, Subhana. Make sure that ha is there. Subhana. Allah. Allah. So put it together. Remember, what's this guy here? Hamzatul Wasl. Right. So when we take one word each word individually, it's Subhana and then Allah. But when we put them together, it's not Subhana Allah. No, that Hamza goes away. Hamzatul Wasl means that it goes away when there's a vowel before it, or really when there's any word before it. Subhanallah. Everyone, Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Right. Glory be to Allah, or glorified is Allah. Right. Now for the next one, I have to get into just a few points on the new material. So there are four particles, basically. The most common, there are four of them. Four particles that have meaning in themselves, just like alif lam means the. But in English we say the house, the chair, the blank. Two separate words. Whereas in Arabic, they're joined together. Alif lam is attached to the noun which comes after it. Similarly, there are four particles that have meaning, have grammatical function, or really meaning, and they're also attached to what comes after them. So one is fa, which loosely often translates as so. So you'll see this in the Quran. One example. I'll write the example in red. This means no. It's a command. No. Notice. This is Hamzat al-Wasl that it begins with, right? No. So in the Quran, we find this word no. I'lam. Everyone say this. Oh, sorry. I'lam. I'lam. In the Quran, there's a part of the Quran that I mentioned just a few minutes ago. Know that La ilaha illallah. Know that there is no God but Allah. That specific verse is Fa i'lam annahu la ilaha illallah. What happens here? It's Hamzat al-Wasl, right? So is it fa i'lam? If this is Hamzat al-Wasl, is it fa i'lam? How would we say it? Fa'lam. Right, this goes away right there. So it's just fa'lam. Even though this seat of the Hamzat al-Wasl, this alif is still there, fa'lam. So literally it's pretty much so know that there is no God but Allah. Fa'lam. Everyone say this for me. Fa'lam. So here we have the so, we have fa is added to i'lam and they're joined together, just like alif lam is attached to what comes after it, so is fa. Another one. So all these are particles, kind of, and so their meaning really depends on the context. But this is an approximate meaning. Bi is approximately with. So let's jump actually to down here to talk about this. What is this line right here? Did anyone get a chance to take a look at this? Yeah, this one right here. Right. Has anyone not heard this before? Not heard this dhikr? Okay, right. La, everyone after me. La, hawla, wala, quwwata. Notice this is a waw with a shadda, quwwa, and then since we have a fatha on the tamabuta, it's not quwwa, it's not just a ha. Since there's a vowel on the tamabuta, it's pronounced as a t. Wala quwwata, 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 illa. Now we have, what is this? It's Allah, and then B. B, and then Allah. So for one thing, they're joined together. It's a particle. There is no change, literally, or no happening, no change and no power, except with Allah, in Allah. B is often, it's hard to translate precisely. You kind of have to do it just in context, however it is. But in Allah, with Allah, billah, illa, billah. So for one, the ba here is joined to Allah. For another, we don't say bi Allah, billah, billah. We say billah. Even though Allah's name is Allah, we talked about in a previous session that the lam here is emphatic. It's the only case in which it will be emphatic in the name of Allah. Therefore, the vowel that comes after that lam is ah and not a. Everyone again say Allah. Allah. Right. It's emphatic. It's mufakham in Arabic, except when kasra or ya comes before that lam. Except when we have a kasra or a ya before that lam. That's when it stops being emphatic. That's why we say Bismillah and not Bismillah. Bismillah, Alhamdulillah. Because there's a kasra before that, there's an I before it. And so therefore the emphaticness goes away. Did you have a question? Right, when it's a vowel. Yeah, when it's a vowel. Okay? One more time. La hawla wala quwwata. La hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Illa billah. La hawla wala quwwata illa billah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Any questions about this? No? Okay. Another particle that's joined to what comes after it is wa. Wa. It almost always means and, pretty much. And. So, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah means I testify that there is no God but Allah, and I testify that that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. You'll often see that. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين ولا الضالين. So and. But it can also, in certain contexts, it can also mean by, as in an oath. By, as in, has anyone heard Wallahi? And someone says Wallahi, like by Allah, as in I swear by Allah. And then Allah also swears in the Quran too. وَالضُّحَى أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. That's the beginning of Surah Ad-Duha. Allah isn't saying, and the morning light, and the morning. It doesn't make much sense. I mean, what and the morning? Right? It's by the morning. Allah is swearing by that. وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. And by the night. Right? So sometimes it's by, but almost always it will be and. This is so this is also attached to what comes after it, but it's not so important as the others because you don't really see that it's completely attached because wow does not connect to what comes after it. Right, so you can't really tell. So here, wa, and here, wa. You can't really tell that there's no space in between them, but essentially there's no space. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And then finally, we have li. Notice I'm writing the initial forms of the letters here because they're connecting to what comes after them and not the full standalone forms. So li pretty much means for, once again, approximation, because we can't give an exact translation for all these things. For, or belonging to, that kind of thing. Also in some contexts, to. Li. So this is how we say. Actually, before we get to that, when I say I'm learning Arabic with the book, as in like by the book is helping me learn Arabic, I will say, well, first of all, the book is Al-Kitab. That's the book. Al-Kitab. Al-Kitab. So when I'm saying I'm learning Arabic through the book or with the book, I would say Bil-Kitab. Bil-Kitab. Just like that. That is attached to Al-Kitab. When I say I'm learning Arabic for the book, as in maybe, I mean, you know, conceptually I could say that, like, why are you learning Arabic? Well, I'm learning it so I understand the book of Allah. Right? I'm learning Arabic for the book. I'm learning Arabic lil kitab. If I put a li in front of here, like that, it doesn't look so pretty. For one, here, okay, also as we talked about, if we have lam alif, we would write it like that. And now this looks like la, it looks like la as in no, la al-kitab, la al-kitab. It doesn't look so good. There might be other reasons for this, other things to consider. The main thing is that when you have alif lam, and then you decide to put li in front of it, this alif, which is the seat of the Hamzat al-Wasl, goes away. Therefore it's written lil kitab. And this is the only one of these four particles that this happens to. Those lam, the seat of the Hamzat al-Wasl, that alif, goes away, it's dropped out in the writing. Even though for all of these, the Hamzat al-Wasl goes away in pronunciation anyway. But it's still written there, we still see it written. So la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, we still have the hamzatul wasl right here in billah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. But if we're saying lillah, the hamzatul wasl goes away. Therefore, we see over here. What's this right here? Alhamdulillah. Good. Yeah. Good answer too. Yeah, this right here is hamzatul wasl, but right, I meant the whole phrase. Alhamdulillah. Therefore, for Allah is right there. Lillah. Lillah. And this is also something powerful about the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu. Allahu. If you reduce this down, first now we have Allah, God, right? Allah. Say you decide to take away from the name of Allah. Take that away. Look, I've taken something away from the name of Allah. What have you actually done? When you take away a letter from the name of Allah, you end up with lillah, which means for Allah. You've actually added something. So you try to reduce Allah and you end up actually getting the reverse. You're confounded. Okay? That's just an interesting point. Allah, to take away that alif seat, you get lillah. Now if you want to take it further too, no, we haven't covered this, but you take away the lam, now you get, this is lahu, which means literally for him, for him. So you still have a meaning here. First we had lillahi, well first we had Allah, then we had lillahi, so first we had God, then for God, now you take away the lam, we had for God, now we have for him, which is pretty much the same meaning, lahu. You take away the lam, you have what? Who means he in Arabic. Who. Or huwa, sometimes too. Huwa, if you were to say the last vowel on the word, it would be huwa. But the basic sound, if you're stopping on it, is hu. That means he in Arabic. Allah is irreducible in his essence. Irreducible. And then also, you get interesting notes on that name too. Now that we know how to write Allah in Arabic, we can see that if you take this is an interesting one I heard of when I was doing Umrah in Saudi Arabia. If you photocopy your hand, like just wait a minute, right here. You take a snippet there. It pretty much says Allah. Does everyone kind of see that if you look at your hand? Had anyone heard that before? Yeah.
Isn't it 81 and 18 other names?
Oh yeah, and then there's that too that I've heard. Right. 18 in Arabic numerals. We haven't gone over the numerals actually, but you're right. 18 in Arabic numerals, then 81, you add them together, you get 99 as in the 99 names of Allah, right? Anyway. Okay, so those are these particles. Any questions about these particles? Anything? Yes?
So, you'd have to know the whole word to know if, that added to it as so.
Yeah, you'd kind of have to know the word, but you can typically tell from context. right? So for example, the word fiqh, the fa is part of the root. I'm not just adding the fa, because for one, it's not fa with a fatha. It's got a kasra on it. Also say, to a certain extent, a synonym of fiqh, as we were talking about it, is fahm. Fahm also means understanding. Here we have fa, right, but if this weren't part of the word, then we just have right, which that can't really be a word. Ha and meme with no vowel in between them, that can't really be a word. So we know that fahm is the full word. Right. So, I mean, in different ways you figure out in context which, whether a particular letter, whether it's this particle or this letter is part of the original word and it's not something added to it. Right. Mm-hmm.
So, with Arabic, when you're writing it,
The spacing isn't really a big deal. I mean,
because there's certain things, like wow,
right.
wouldn't stop it, the other rest of the word, and then the next, the spacing between the next word, differentiate.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you understood Arabic, it wouldn't really matter, but are you supposed to put a smaller space between the word that has the phrase in it and then the next word?
Yeah, and in general, I mean, yeah, you should be paying attention to two spaces. So, for example, here, wait, what's a better example? Okay, yeah, right here. We have this word. Okay, Muhammad. This is the best example, I guess. وأشهد أن, sorry. وأشهد أن. This means I testify that. أشهد أن. So the dal does not connect to what comes after it. So if this is two words right here, I testify that. We want to make sure there's space there, because it would, if we're not putting much space in between the letters, then it looks like this would be all one word, which it could possibly be, because the dal would not connect to that alif with a hamza on it. It would look the same with less space. So we want to make sure there's some space there. Does that kind of cover your question? Okay, yeah. So do make sure that there's space in between words, right? And now the final kind of point that I wanted to cover, or new bit of material, is that which is called Tanwin in Arabic. Tanwin. Actually, I'm going to write the name now that we all know Arabic. Alhamdulillah. I'll write the name of it in Arabic. Tanwin. Tanwin. In the intentions that we read, we have the word ta'aleem. Ta'aleem. Teaching. Ta'aleem means teaching. The root of it is ayn, lam, mim. Ilm, knowledge. Root of teaching is knowledge. But the word that's produced from it is ta'aleem. This is in a similar form. Tanwin. So the root of the word is tanwin. Is noon, waw, noon. Right here. If the root of this word, tanwin, is this, what does this say right here? Noon, noon, right. Tanwin, just as ta'aleem means to make someone have ilm, to give someone knowledge. To teach means to give knowledge. Right? Or to make someone knowledgeable, make someone have knowledge. Tanwin literally means to make have a noon. To make have a noon. Often in early like English books written about Arabic grammar, they say noonate, to noonate a word. What this means is the tanwin is a type of it's a type of vowel symbol. Basically, what you'll see is that we learnt the harakat, we learnt the three vowel symbols: fatha, dhamma, and kasra. We can do something additional with them. We can double them. So you'll often see this written out. Now when you see the double vowels written out, that does not mean double the short vowel, i.e. a long vowel. When you see two dhammas next to each other, that doesn't mean that it's u plus u, meaning ooh. This is not equivalent to a wow. This is not equivalent to a kasra, etc. What it means is that it's that vowel followed by noon. When you see this symbol, the way you say it is un, an, in. Right. Yes. Sorry? That's right. Fathan. So one final thing to note here is that you'll see these three symbols: the double dhamma, double fatha, double kasra. The double fatha actually needs a seat of an alif. It's the one tanween that needs a seat of an alif. Okay, what does that mean? That means that when I say it, like in the intentions, iftah lana fathan, the word is fath. Fath means an opening. Now, the vowels that come at the end of words have to do with grammatical function. And so it doesn't really change the meaning of the word, it changes its placement in the sentence. The way that it's functioning in the sentence, the grammar to do with it, is the reason that we have these tanween symbols on the end. And so when I say grant me an opening, or open me an opening, literally, or open for us an opening, in the intentions, iftah lana fathan. Fathan. This is what happens. I put double alif up there. Tanween, double fatha, tanween fatha. But tanween fatha is uniquely, it needs actually the seat of an alif. Just like how hamza needs a seat, tanween al-fatha almost always needs the seat of an alif. So fathan, fathan. Fathan mubinan. So that doesn't mean, once again, that doesn't mean this is an alif right here. It means it's a seat for the tanween of fatha. Mubinan. Yes, question?
So right after it, the word qariba, it also has that, but it's not that exact.
Okay, yeah. Another point is that since the alif is written here, what that means is that we don't, when we stop on a word, we don't say the vowel at the end of that word, and therefore if we stop here, there's an alif written, and so if we're stopping there, then it becomes it's an alif. we stop saying an alif, even though it's not really an alif there. That's kind of a minor point that might get a little complicated right now. So if we're reciting tajweed, then I say fathan mubina, fathan mubina. If I stop there, if I stop here, I'd say fatha, fatha. I say it as an alif, but if I'm going on, I would say the tanwin there. Fathan mubina, or fathan mubina.
So it will end that way. With the
Right. Right. Yes.
Isn't it like that a lot with other vowels too? Like at the end, like you kind of start off a lot of vowels.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah. In a general rule, when pronouncing the best Arabic, and especially when reading Quran, is that you don't say the last vowel on that word. You don't say the last vowel on that word. Right. And so here, an example. And we're almost done. Sorry for going slightly over. Okay, someone tell me, what is this right here? What does this say? Good, everyone say it for me. Muhammadin. Muhammadin. What does this say right here? Right, if we're saying all the vowels out, Muhammadi. Muhammadi. Right now? Muhammadin. What does it say? Muhammadu. Right. Now, this? Muhammadun. Right, Muhammadun. And then finally, Muhammada. Now, if I add another fatha, what do I need to actually put on the end? I need an alif seat for that. So what is this right here? Right, Muhammadan. Muhammadan. Okay. Right, so finally we'll end with the shahada. I've written this out, and now it's our turn to together put the vowels in. Actually, if I could have a courageous volunteer to, first of all, let's say it. Ashhadu Allah ilaha illa Allah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Okay, so now everyone is going to have to do something, like about 2 words or so. So, first person. Okay, Yasmin, go ahead. Yeah, just tell me. What is it exactly?
In that, it's the shed
This one?
on the alif instead of the lam.
The shed is on the alif instead of the lam. Can we put a shed on an alif? No, not quite. The shed. Oh, you mean it was?
I think it is.
It is.
Is it on the wrong?
I think it's in the right place. Yeah, it's right above the lam for both of these. Allah, ilaha illa. Right. Any quick corrections? Yes.
That, Abdul, isn't that supposed to be a second?
Good. Yeah. Sukuna. You should. Yep. If you're putting all the other vowels in, you need to put sukun. Always need to put sukun. Yeah. One more thing in this word. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. That would be la ilaha illallah. Not quite. The shahada is La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. This written right now is La ilaha illallah. Ilaha. Ilaha. But La ilaha illallah. It's what? The little alif, the dagger alif, as it's usually called, right? Just like in Allah, we have a dagger alif here. There's one in ilaha, ilaha, and then finally, Allah. It's a hamzat al-wasl, right? Okay, so everyone, ashhadu, ashhadu, alla ilaha illa Allah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Any questions on that? Okay, Jazakumullah khair. See you next week, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.